biceps, got to do the
Where
curls.
do we even go, from here?
All right, I'm going to tell a story right now of when I really pieced this together. I had a gymnast that worked for me as a trainer years ago. This dude was about, 5'10", jacked, like incredible arms. Like you ever seen like competitive gymnasts, male gymnasts in particular, female gymnasts too, but male gymnasts, they just have like these like amateur bodybuilding looking arms. And I asked him once, like, what do you do for your biceps? Your arms look crazy. And he goes, chin-ups. I'm like, that's a back exercise. He goes, no, it's a bicep exercise if you do it like this. And he jumps up on the bar, gets a curl grip, and rather than pulling his chest to the bar, he does this kind of like compound lift for his biceps. And then it dawned on me, if I want my quads to really grow,
Coach Vance Newgard here, Senior International Olympic Weightlifting Coach and Professor of Sport and Exercise Science. So, I'm going to answer the question, are chin-ups actually the best biceps exercise? First of all, I'm going to explain that biomechanically that cannot be true. Secondarily, just using an anecdote like gymnasts do chin-ups, so therefore that's the cause of their big biceps, also is probably not true. If you sit a gymnast down and ask them to write out all of the strength exercises they do for their sport, especially if they are a ring specialist, chin-ups would be a very small part of their overall training plan, maybe even like 0% of their overall training plan dependence. There's a lot of variability, just like in any athlete, of what exercises they actually use and how much. So I will concede that doing chin-ups, you will build bicep strength and muscle mass, especially if you're doing all of your exercises pronated and you switch to doing them supinated, you might get a little bit more growth. If you increase your volume of chin-ups to 5 sets a week and you work your way up over months and months and months and years or whatever to 30 sets a week, will your biceps grow? Probably. But that is actually poor training management if you do that, because likely that you will have some type of epicondylitis in your elbows from doing that. And do you need to train your back that much? And do you need to train your back in that plane that much? So you can use a compound exercise to develop any type of muscle. I was an Olympic weightlifter. Eventually, I was doing 8 squat sessions a week at the peak of my career. And I did that for several years. And my legs got big. I needed size 44 pants to fit my legs in. But my knees hurt all the time. My back hurt all the time from doing that. That's the nature of a sport. If you don't have a sport-specific reason for doing that type of training, then you are just making yourself hurt, having joint pain for no reason. There is a much better way to actually manage your training, and isolation exercises are actually very important for that if your only goal is to have bigger biceps. The other thing is most of the growth that gymnasts get from their biceps is probably not from pulling exercises specifically. It's mostly from straight arm work, especially ring specialists, which creates a lot of torque in the biceps, especially near the elbow joint. I do a lot of gymnastic strength training just for fun, just part of my training now. And I actually have a binder full of gymnastics exercises, strength exercises written by international coaches. I have about 5 months there. I have another binder that's another year's worth of training. And I even have this book, and you'll notice they have a section called curls, right? So they might not do a lot of barbell curling or dumbbell curling, which some of them actually do. And I'm going to demonstrate that gymnasts actually do lift weights, just very in a specific way. So these are all done with different ways, bars and rings and whatnot, to do it with your own body weight, but they are doing curls, right? And so we're going to go over how the chin-up is a good exercise, but it is not the best exercise for your biceps. That's a little bit silly to say something like that. So gymnasts not only want to train their biceps brachii, which is a biarticular muscle, which means it flexes the elbow, but also aids in shoulder elevation, which is very important to understand when it comes to the chin up and why it is not the best biceps exercise. But they also want to train the brachialis, which crosses the elbow joint in order to protect the elbow during straight arm elements like the cross and the Maltese. When you do chin-ups, the biceps are very active, but activity doesn't correlate perfectly with mechanical tension. High tension only occurs when the biceps are in a shortened position, when the forearms get to about 90 degrees. And tension in the shortened position is fine for strength, but it isn't good for growing muscle. When you fully lengthen the arm, the shoulders actually elevate, and so the biceps get involved to assist at a very low tension, which reduces at the elbow joint itself. So much like the rectus femoris isn't built very well from squatting because it assists in hip flexion during the squat, it is better built from leg extensions, which is why isolation exercises can be useful because complex exercises don't always create the same tension in every part of every muscle. So if you really wanted to create more chronic tension in the biceps during the chin-up, you would only need to pull through the middle of the movement because at the bottom and the very top, the biceps are getting almost no mechanical tension, and they're getting most of their tension through the lats. This is why rope climbs are often used, because they train both the brachii and the brachialis to a greater degree than the chin-up. We know that putting more torque on the lengthened muscle causes more muscle hypertrophy, so preacher curls and curls from behind the back actually cause more muscle growth than standing curls or chin-ups would give you. So most of the volume gymnasts actually do that creates biceps hypertrophy comes from straight arm movements like crosses and cross strengthening exercises, which creates a lot of torque with the biceps lengthened. And we know that isometrics in the lengthened position are good for muscle hypertrophy. And these exercises put a lot of stress in the fibers near the elbow joint, where you can actually see how thick the arms get in this area in particular. Gymnasts in general do a big volume of both bent and straight arm movements with body weight, ring trolleys, weights, pulleys, as well, and the ones that need to add mass or correct weakness do actually use weights in the same motions as they would perform in their gymnastic skills. And all this together is what creates their musculature, not one secret exercise in particular like the chin-up.